Steelers fans, this is the kind of mid-season move that can change the tone of an entire locker room. Asante Samuel Jr. is officially a member of the Pittsburgh Steelers practice squad, and while that might sound like a minor roster transaction on paper, it's actually a huge statement from both sides. This wasn't a player who was desperate for a job. This was a calculated decision. Samuel had interest from multiple playoff-caliber teams, but he chose Pittsburgh. That alone should tell you something about where this organization is trying to go, and how much belief still exists in the potential of this defense to rebound before the season slips away. So, smash that like button, and check this out. Now, let's talk about what kind of player the Steelers are getting. Samuel, 26 years old, brings energy, pedigree, and football intelligence to a secondary that's been searching for consistency since week 1. He's listed at 5 feet 10 inches, 180 pounds, the exact same frame as Dante Jackson, who held down the number 2 corner spot last season. Drafted 47th overall in 2021 by the Chargers, Asante Samuel Jr. has made a name for himself as a smart, instinctive zone corner, a player who thrives when he's reading the quarterback, not chasing receivers downfield in man coverage. His fit in Pittsburgh makes perfect sense for a defense that's expected to lean more heavily on zone looks, like cover 6 and corners, especially after the struggles we've seen from Darius Slay. The Steelers desperately needed a spark at corner. Let's be honest, Slay hasn't been the guy they hoped for when he arrived. Whether it's been lapses in coverage or the concussion that's currently keeping him sidelined, his performance has been far from up to snuff, to borrow Mike Tomlin's words. So bringing in Samuel isn't just about depth, it's a lifeline. You're adding a player with proven ball skills, someone who can create turnovers in a defense that's dropped far too many interception opportunities this year. This isn't to say Asante's perfect. He's aggressive, sometimes too aggressive, and teams have baited him into giving up big plays on double moves before. He's not a strong tackler, and run defense isn't his specialty. But Pittsburgh doesn't need him to be that guy. They need a ball hawk, someone opposite Joey Porter Jr. who can complement his physical man-to-man style. Porter is long, disruptive, and built for isolation coverage. Samuel is quick, instinctive, and reads the field like a safety. Together, they can form the kind of pairing that keeps offenses guessing, one corner locking up a top target, the other lurking, waiting to make a quarterback pay for one bad decision. And don't overlook the long-term implications here. Samuel isn't a one-year rental type of signing. He's young enough that if this partnership works, Pittsburgh could bring him back next offseason and solidify a duo that might finally bring stability to a secondary that's been in constant flux. That's not something you find often in November, a 26-year-old former second-round pick with legitimate starter upside just sitting there for the taking. But that's the reality the Steelers capitalized on. Of course, this move also raises new questions. With Samuel coming in as a natural outside corner, who takes over inside? The smart money is on Brandon Echols to man the slot, but his performance last week was shaky. Still, he's shown enough over the season to earn the trust of the coaching staff, even if fans are a bit uneasy about him handling more responsibility. Behind them, James Pierre remains the next man up, a reliable depth piece who's quietly done his job when called upon. And then there's Jalen Ramsey, who's finding a new home at safety but could always shift back into a hybrid role if needed. The coaching staff has proven they can get new additions up to speed quickly. Remember how Kyle Duggar was ready to go just days after being traded? Samuel's signing came on a Tuesday, just like Duggar's. If they can get him game ready this week, there's a strong chance we'll see him start outside opposite Porter Jr. by Sunday. If not, expect Pierre to hold down that spot for one more week until Samuel's ready. And while this signing grabbed the headlines, it wasn't the only move. The Steelers also released safety one Thornhill and practice squad DB Derek Forrest, opening room for Samuel and another familiar face, Sebastian Castro, who returns after being poached by Tampa Bay earlier in the season. Castro's not flashy, but he's a tough, instinctive player who impressed in camp. He's not the biggest or most physical, but he knows how to diagnose plays and brings a versatile skill set that makes him valuable depth behind Kyle Duggar and Jalen Ramsey. Mike Tomlin's Tuesday presser also gave us encouraging injury updates. Guard Isaac Sumolo, who missed the Chargers game with a pectoral injury, is expected to return this week, a much-needed boost for the offensive line. Linebacker Cole Holcomb should also be back after illness kept him sidelined for 2 weeks. Peppers continues to work through his quad issue, and Slay remains in concussion protocol. The defense is slowly getting back to full strength, and now with Samuel in the mix, there's a sense of renewed optimism that this unit might finally start playing the kind of football Steelers fans expect. So here's the real question. Do you think this Asante Samuel Jr. signing can be the move that turns things around for the Steelers defense down the stretch? Or is this just another mid-season headline that won't make a lasting impact? Because let's be real, for all the optimism surrounding this move, it only matters if Asante Samuel Jr. can translate potential into production right away. The Steelers aren't signing him to sit and learn. They're signing him because the defense needs a jolt right now. When a team that's been struggling against the pass makes this kind of addition mid-season, it's both a reflection of desperation and determination. They know what's at stake. The margin for error is gone, and every defensive snap from here on out could determine whether Pittsburgh stays in the playoff race or fades into mediocrity. Now, if you break down how Samuel fits schematically, it's almost tailor-made. The Steelers have quietly shifted toward heavier zone looks over the past few games, relying more on disguised coverages, rotating safeties, and baiting quarterbacks into mistakes. That's exactly where Asante thrives. His anticipation, quick feet, and ability to break on routes could finally help this defense capitalize on the turnover chances they've been missing. We've seen it all year: dropped interceptions, mistimed jumps, blown leverage. What Pittsburgh's been missing isn't opportunity, it's conversion. Samuel's ball skills can change that equation. Pair that with Joey Porter Jr., and suddenly you've got one of the most interesting quarterback tandems in the AFC. Porter brings length and physicality. He'll get in a receiver's face and challenge every release. Samuel brings quickness and vision. He sees plays develop and reacts before the quarterbacks even set his feet. It's a complementary duo, something Pittsburgh hasn't truly had since the days of Joe Hayden and Steven Nelson, maybe even earlier. And at just 26 years old, Samuel could be more than a band-aid. He could be part of the next defensive foundation. But to get there, the Steelers have to navigate a few immediate challenges. First, communication. Zone-heavy defenses thrive on trust and timing. It's not about athleticism, it's about recognition and discipline. Samuel's only been in the building for a few days, and the team's asking him to absorb a new playbook, terminology, and chemistry with guys like Ramsey and Duggar almost overnight. We saw the same challenge when Duggar arrived, and while he adjusted quickly, that's not something you can always count on. If the Steelers rush Samuel into the lineup and the timing isn't right, one miscommunication could lead to a blown coverage, something that's already haunted this defense far too often. Then there's the physical side. Let's not forget that Samuel is coming off a serious spinal procedure. For all the excitement about his addition, there's still uncertainty about how his body will respond to full contact again. The Steelers' medical staff clearly feels confident enough to greenlight this, but that's a storyline worth watching. You don't come back from that kind of injury without questions, and even though he's cleared, the first few games will tell us everything about his durability and confidence on the field. Meanwhile, Mike Tomlin and defensive coordinator Terrell Austin have a delicate balance to manage. They've been experimenting with safety rotations, Ramsey shifting between deep and box roles, Duggar getting more downhill assignments, Pepper still rehabbing, and now adding Samuel changes those alignments again. If this works, Pittsburgh could suddenly boast a flexible, turnover-hunting secondary capable of matching up with almost any offensive look. But if the chemistry doesn't gel, you could end up with the same inconsistencies that have plagued this defense for years. And speaking of chemistry, the locker room dynamic here is something worth mentioning. Bringing in a player like Samuel isn't just about his skill set, it's about what message it sends. It tells the guys in that room that management isn't giving up. They're still investing in this roster, still trying to fix the holes instead of waiting for the offseason. That's powerful. When you're in the middle of a frustrating year, and suddenly a name like Asante Samuel Jr. walks through the door, it reminds everyone that the standard in Pittsburgh doesn't drop just because the standings aren't ideal. At the same time, moves like this put pressure on veterans like Darius Slay. There's a reason Tomlin's quote about Thornhill, "He wasn't up to snuff," made headlines. That same tone applies here. This organization expects production, not reputation. And if Samuel performs the way he's capable of, there's no guarantee Slay gets his starting spot back even when he's healthy. Competition brings accountability, and that's something this defense has needed all season. Beyond Samuel, the return of Sebastian Castro shouldn't be overlooked either. He's the kind of gritty, detail-oriented player that embodies the next man-up mentality. He might not start, but he represents depth, effort, and a reminder that every roster spot matters. With Thornhill gone and Forrest released, the safety group is tightening up, and Castro's return provides an energy boost in meetings and practice, the kind of intangible that keeps a defense sharp through November and December. So now, as the Steelers prepare for another divisional showdown against the Bengals, the question is whether these roster adjustments will finally pay off. Can the defense find rhythm? Can they stop surrendering long drives late in games? Can they create turnovers again? Because at this point, that's the difference between sneaking into the postseason or packing up early. Steelers Nation, I want to hear from you. Does this addition of Asante Samuel Jr. feel like a turning point for the defense, or are we setting ourselves up for another case of too little, too late? Drop your thoughts in the comments, make sure you're subscribed for all the latest updates, hit that like button if you believe this team still has fight left in them, and check out the other videos on screen to stay caught up with everything happening inside the black and gold. And here's the thing, Steelers fans, moves like this can either define a season or fade quietly into the background depending on how quickly everything clicks. The truth is, Pittsburgh's defense hasn't looked like itself lately. The identity that once made the Steelers one of the most feared units in football, discipline, physicality, opportunism, has been slipping. Bringing in Asante Samuel Jr. feels like a calculated attempt to rediscover that edge before it's too late. Think about what this defense was supposed to be coming into the year. On paper, the secondary had veteran leadership in Darius Slay, high upside youth in Joey Porter Jr., and elite versatility from Jalen Ramsey and Kyle Duggar. But somewhere along the way, execution fell behind expectation. The tackling issues, miscommunication in coverage, dropped interceptions, they've all been small cracks that added up to big problems. Opposing quarterbacks have picked apart the soft spots in coverage, and the Steelers have been burned far too many times on third downs that should have been stops. That's why Samuel's arrival isn't just about another name on the roster, it's about culture. He's got the DNA of a playmaker. His father, Asante Samuel Sr., built his reputation on anticipation and swagger, traits the younger Samuel shares. This defense could use a bit of that swagger right now. They've been playing reactive football, waiting for things to happen instead of dictating the game. Samuel's style, aggressive and confident, could reintroduce that attacking mindset. And when you combine that with what Joey Porter Jr. has been showing lately, the growth, the physicality, the ability to shadow top receivers, you suddenly start seeing a potential identity forming. One side of the field locked down by length and press technique, the other side patrolled by instinct and anticipation. That's how great defenses are built, not